Now that we've spent a good amount of time testing our new high-end 2025K iMac, it's time to start comparing it to our other machines, like our older high-end 2017 and 2019 iMacs, our $15,000 Mac Pro, and of course, my base $5,000 iMac Pro that I've been using daily for a year now, and that's what this video is all about. Now I know a lot of you guys are waiting to see how our lower end i7 8-core 2020 iMac compares to this high-end 10-core model, and we're actually working on that video right now, so subscribe if you want to see those comparison videos. But before we get into comparing the high-end iMac to the iMac Pro, I want to show you guys our brand new premium MaxTech zip-up hoodie, which comes with a small and subtle logo on the front and the same Apple product pattern that we get on our masks on the back of the hoodie, with various icons like the Mac Pro, the iMac, the Apple Watch, and the new iPad Pro, so definitely check it out in our merch shelf right below this video. I'll get into the real-world performance differences for things like Logic Pro 10, photo editing, and video editing in just a minute, but first let's compare the differences in the design, the ports, the speakers, and the microphones. There are three main differences in design. Number one is that the iMac Pro gets the exclusive space gray color, which also comes on the mouse and the larger keyboard, which comes with a numpad, unlike the one that comes with the 5K iMac. Number two is that the 2020 iMac gets a $500 option for the nano textured glass, which basically gives you a glare-free display without sacrificing the contrast and color quality like other matte display films do. But we didn't pay for this upgrade because we don't think it's worth the $500 price. And number three is the fact that the iMac Pro sacrifices the user replaceable RAM door in order to have an upgraded cooling system with dual fans, larger heat sinks, and extra exhaust vents on the back. The iMac has finally been upgraded with a 1080p webcam, just like the one on the iMac Pro, so here's a quick comparison of the microphone and webcam quality. This is the new 1080p webcam on the 2020 5K iMac. And this is the 1080p webcam on the 2017 iMac Pro. As you just saw, there's not that big of a difference in terms of the webcam, so now let's compare the speakers. Let me know if you heard any noticeable differences between both machines down in the comment section below, and now let's get into comparing the ports. Both of them get 4 USB-A ports, which are running at a maximum speed of 5 gigabits per second, as you can see right here in these screenshots. And what's great this year for the iMac is that it supports UHS 2 transfer speeds with the SD card reader, just like the one that comes on the iMac Pro. The 5K iMac now finally has an available $100 upgrade option to get a very fast 10 gigabit Ethernet port, just like the iMac Pro comes with, which is great for using NAS servers. And apart from that, the iMac Pro comes with 4 Thunderbolt 3 ports instead of just 2 on the 5K iMac. So with that out of the way, let's finally get into performance. But first, I want to show you guys the differences in the specs. And I want to mention that my iMac Pro is an 8-core model. But if you're buying one new right now, the base model now comes with a 10-core, so keep that in mind. And you'll also notice that because the 5K iMac has a RAM door, we bought 64 gigs of RAM for only $240 on Amazon and upgraded it ourselves, giving it an advantage over the iMac Pro, which actually has a larger SSD at the base price. But either way, the 5K iMac is significantly cheaper. And with that, let's get right into our performance comparison, starting with a fan noise test, which we ran by using a terminal script that maxes out the CPU. And the fan noise you're about to hear is after exactly 5 minutes of running this script on each Mac. So let me know what you think about the fan noise differences down in the comments below, and now let's finally get into the benchmarks, starting with Geekbench 5's CPU test. In terms of single core performance, the iMac kills the iMac Pro. So if you're doing tasks that only use one core, there's going to be a huge advantage for the regular iMac. And in terms of multi-core score, we see basically the same results with over 20% more raw multi-core performance using the 10-core CPU on the new iMac. Now running the Cinebench R20 CPU stress test, the 5K iMac somehow scored 50% higher than the iMac Pro, which is super impressive. Now let's get into graphics performance, starting with Geekbench 5's metal test, and here the iMac's 5700 XT outperformed the iMac Pro's Vega 56 by just a little bit. We then tested Unigen's Heaven Gaming benchmark on the Extreme preset, and the iMac scored around 22 more FPS than the iMac Pro, which is definitely more along the lines of what we were expecting. And we actually played some games on Windows 10 using Boot Camp, and it performed very well, so definitely check out our gaming review after this video. Now since Unigen Heaven uses OpenGL, we also ran some metal benchmarks using GFX Bench 5.0. In the Aztec Ruins test, the 5K iMac scored around 25 more FPS than the iMac Pro, and in the Manhattan test, there was a smaller difference since we were already close to reaching 400 FPS in that test. Now one thing I do want to mention before we move on is that the 5700 XT in the iMac comes with 16 gigs of VRAM compared to 8 gigs with the Vega 56 on the iMac Pro. But the bandwidth on the iMac Pro is actually a little bit higher with 400 gigabytes per second of bandwidth. Now before we finally get into our video editing test with Final Cut Pro 10, let's test everything from photo editing, Logic Pro 10 music production, and Xcode programming. We ran the Puget Bench Photoshop benchmark, and the 5K iMac actually scored around 35% higher than the iMac Pro, which is pretty surprising, and we think the difference is due to the extra cores and the extra RAM. We then exported 500 RAW 42 megapixel photos in Lightroom Classic, and we saw the complete opposite result. The iMac Pro actually finished 5 minutes faster than the 5K iMac, even though it was 35% slower in Puget Bench for Photoshop. And then we created 50 raw one-to-one previews, and the iMac Pro was 16 seconds faster in this test as well. So it's definitely a better choice, but this result just doesn't make sense considering the raw performance difference. We did a little bit of digging and we realized that the iMac Pro is actually using 4-channel memory compared to only dual channel on the iMac, which is allowing it to perform better, even though it has 2 times less physical RAM. Now moving on to the MaxTech Xcode benchmark created for us by Max Eremenko, which you can find a link to in the description, the 5K iMac was a little over 20% faster than the iMac Pro thanks to the extra CPU performance. Now getting into music production, we ran the new Logic Pro 10 Benchmark 2, which tests how many tracks the system can handle without getting an overload error message. And surprisingly, the iMac Pro was able to play 31 more tracks than the 5K iMac before overloading. The reason for that is because the iMac Pro uses server-grade Xeon chips that are more reliable and run at more stable clock speeds. But if you're not trying to max out the system with tons of tracks, the 5K iMac should perform just as well for day-to-day music production. And now finally getting into Final Cut Pro 10, the iMac was surprisingly over 50% faster in the Bruce X 5K benchmark, which we think is due to the differences in raw performance and the new Navi-based graphics architecture in the 5700 XT. Then moving on to our 1-minute 4K HEVC stabilization test, the 5K iMac destroyed the iMac Pro by finishing 4 times faster, which didn't make any sense, but then we dug deeper and realized that the 5K iMac is using QuickSync to encode, which the iMac Pro doesn't have because it lacks an integrated graphics chip. Now onto our 5-minute 4K H.264 export test, which is basically the most common format that YouTubers use. The 5K iMac was just 3 seconds faster than the iMac Pro, so it's not that big of a difference. So because of that, this year we're adding a brand new H.264 test, exporting one of our very own videos, which is 12 minutes long and packs a bunch of effects and graphs that we use all the time in our videos, so it's just about the most real-world test you can get. Here, the 5K iMac shows its true colors, finishing the export almost a minute and a half quicker than the iMac Pro. So for regular 4K H.264 editing, the iMac is definitely the better choice, and for a lower price. Now what about HEVC editing, which is quickly becoming the new standard? Well, in our 5-minute export test, the 5K iMac was just 3 seconds faster, since both machines are limited by the encoding speed of the T2 chip, which handles HEVC footage. And I do want to mention that the Navi graphics card in the iMac actually has new HEVC encoders that run at 90 frames per second, compared to the T2 chip's 60 FPS. But Final Cut hasn't yet been updated to support these new Navi encoders, but when it eventually does in the future, the 5K iMac should get even faster for HEVC editing. Now, a lot of you guys have been asking us to edit Canon's 422 EOS R5 footage, and it actually improved with the new Final Cut Pro 10.4.9 update. So if you want more info on that, Max actually made a video on his other channel focusing on that new codec. So I'll link to that video in the end screen after this one's over. But I did run a transcoding test on a 30-minute Canon R5 clip, and the 5K iMac finished the transcode quite a bit faster than the iMac Pro. So there's that. Now moving on to Canon C200 RAW footage, the new Final Cut Pro update broke it. So we're currently waiting on Canon to release the new RAW plugin. So we ran our 5-minute export test using the previous version of Final Cut Pro, and the 5K iMac finished over 3 minutes faster than the iMac Pro. And in terms of the playback FPS in the timeline, both of them played the footage at a perfect 60 FPS, which is very impressive. Now moving on to Red Raw editing, we ran the new version of Final Cut Pro with the new RAW plugin, and the 5K iMac easily killed the iMac Pro, finishing our 5-minute 4.5K export in exactly 5 minutes. And then moving on to the 8K Red Raw test, the 5K iMac finished a very impressive 4 minutes faster than the iMac Pro, and the new Final Cut Pro update helps a huge amount, since it used to take over 17 minutes using the previous 10.4.8 version of Final Cut. And in terms of playing back this 8K footage, the 5K iMac can run it at around 19 FPS out of 24, while the iMac Pro runs it at around 15 FPS. So there you guys go. From all of these tests that we ran, we can conclude that the 5K iMac is better for almost everything, including video editing, programming with Xcode, graphic design with Photoshop, and gaming as well. But the iMac Pro actually performed better for Lightroom classic photo editing thanks to the quad-channel RAM, and it handled more tracks in Logic Pro 10 thanks to the more stable server-grade Xeon chip. And thankfully, the port situation has been improved with the 5K iMac now that it finally has a faster SD card slot and an option for a 10 gig Ethernet port. But the iMac Pro still has the advantage of 2 extra Thunderbolt 3 ports. So with all that said, if we're looking at the entire system in general, the 5K iMac is obviously the better choice because it's more powerful overall, it's less expensive, it gets newer technology like the Navi graphics architecture, and it has the RAM door so you can save a lot of money by upgrading the RAM yourself. Especially for those who want to get 128 gigs of RAM for just $500 on Amazon instead of paying $2,000 for it on the iMac Pro. So there you guys have it. Hopefully this comparison video helped you make a decision, and if it did, go ahead and click the circle above to subscribe because we've got a heck of a lot more iMac videos to come very soon. And definitely check out our Apple product merch down below, including our brand new Apple product zip up hoodie. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.